Single mother fired for arriving soaked at work. But she had helped the boss's father. Jessica Miller felt her world collapsing as she heard the words that had just come out of her supervisor's mouth. After 3 years working with total dedication at the company, after so many sleepless nights to deliver projects on time, there she was being let go for something that seemed so unfair. "Jessica, you know I can't tolerate this kind of behavior. Arriving drenched at work, dripping water through the office is not acceptable for a company of our size," said Michael Thompson, commercial director of Horizon Builders, without even looking up from the papers on his desk. "Mr. Michael, I can explain what happened. If you just give me a few minutes." "There's nothing to explain, Jessica. The image you presented to our clients today was terrible. Mr. Roberts was waiting in the reception when you arrived looking like a drowned rat. That is unacceptable." Jessica felt tears burning her eyes, but refused to cry in front of that man. She had an 8-year-old daughter waiting for her at home. She depended on that job to support them both. She couldn't afford to fall apart there. "Please, Mr. Michael, I have a young daughter. This job means everything to me. What happened this morning was... It was a lack of responsibility, and our company can't afford to keep irresponsible employees." Michael interrupted her, finally raising his gaze. "You have until the end of the week to gather your belongings. The Human Resources Department has already been notified." Jessica swallowed hard. 3 years of hard work, always arriving early, doing overtime without complaint, being one of the most efficient salespeople on the team, all thrown away for arriving wet on a Monday morning. If only he knew the real reason why she had been late and arrived soaked. 2 hours earlier, Jessica was walking hurriedly through the streets of downtown Denver. The rain had started suddenly, as often happens at the end of the Colorado summer. She had left home without an umbrella, trusting the weather forecast that promised a sunny day. She was almost running when she saw the elderly man standing under the bus stop, trying to shield himself from the rain that was falling harder and harder. He held a cane with one hand and seemed lost, looking around as if searching for something. Jessica could have walked right by. She was late. The rain was getting more intense by the second, and she knew that arriving wet at work wouldn't be viewed favorably. But something about the man's helpless manner made her stop. "Are you okay?" she asked, approaching him. The man looked at her with kind eyes, but filled with worry. "Oh, miss, thank you for asking. I'm a bit lost, actually. I went out for a morning walk and got lost. And now with this rain..." He gestured with his free hand, looking dismayed. "Where do you need to go?" "I live over on Maple Avenue, near City Park. I've known this area for over 50 years, but today, I don't know what came over me." Jessica looked at her watch. She was already 5 minutes late. If she went straight to work, she could still make it without major problems. But looking at that elderly man, with his grey hair wet from the rain and an expression of vulnerability that touched her deeply, she couldn't just walk away. "Come on, I'll help you," she said, taking the pink umbrella from her bag. It was small, barely covering one person, let alone two, but it was all she had. "No, miss. You're clearly in a hurry. I don't want to bother you." "You're not bothering anyone. We all need help sometimes." The smile that bloomed on the elderly man's face was worth all the hurry in the world. Jessica opened the umbrella and positioned herself beside him, slipping her arm under his to help him walk. "What's your name, dear?" Jessica Miller." "Nice to meet you, Jessica. I'm George Thompson." They walked slowly along the wet streets. The small umbrella barely covered them both, and Jessica felt the rain soaking her work clothes, but she didn't mind. There was something special about this elderly man, a genuine kindness that radiated even amid his momentary confusion. "Tell me about yourself, Jessica. What do you do for a living?" "I work at a construction company downtown. I'm a salesperson. I have a young daughter, Emily. It's just the two of us." "A warrior, then. I admire women like you. My wife was like that too, strong and determined. She passed away 5 years ago, God rest her soul. I'm sorry for your loss, Mr. George. Life goes on, my dear. I have a son, Michael. He takes good care of me, but sometimes I feel like I'm a burden to him. That's why I go out for walks alone, so I don't bother him." Jessica nearly stumbled when she heard the name. Michael. Could it be a coincidence? How many Michaels were there in Denver? What does your son do for work? He owns a construction company. He works so hard, poor thing. Ever since his mother passed, he's thrown himself into his work head first. Sometimes I think he forgets he has an old father at home, George said with a melancholic smile. Jessica's heart raced. It couldn't be. The world wasn't that small. But a strange feeling washed over her, as if the universe was preparing some surprise for her. They reached Maple Avenue and George pointed to an elegant apartment building. It's right there, miss. How can I thank you? No need to thank me, Mr. George. Anyone would have done the same. No, Jessica. Not everyone would. You sacrificed your time, got completely soaked to help a stranger. That says a lot about your character. George held her hands between his, which were warm despite the cold rain. Be sure that your kindness will be rewarded in some way. The universe has a curious way of repaying noble gestures. Jessica smiled, said goodbye to the elderly man, and ran back to work. She arrived 15 minutes late, completely drenched, dripping water on the office floor. And that's how Michael Thompson saw her when he came out of his office to greet the client he was waiting for. The embarrassment was immense. The client, Mr. Roberts, made a disapproving face upon seeing an employee in such a state. Michael apologized and immediately called Jessica into his office for a meeting. And now there she was, being fired for an act of kindness that no one knew about. Mr. Michael, I beg you to give me a chance to explain. What happened today? I've already decided, Jessica. And when I decide something, I don't go back on it. His voice sounded final, with no room for discussion. Jessica took a deep breath, picked up her purse and headed for the door. Just one question, Mr. Michael, out of curiosity. Is your father's name George? Michael looked up abruptly, surprised by the question. How do you know my father's name? Because I spent the morning helping an elderly man named George Thompson, who was lost in the rain. That's why I arrived wet. That's why I was late. The color drained from Michael's face. He remained silent for long seconds, processing the information. You helped my father. He was lost downtown in the rain. He had gone out for a walk and couldn't find his way back home. I walked him to his building on Maple Avenue. Michael ran his hand through his hair, visibly shaken. He picked up the phone and dialed a number. Dad? Dad, it's Michael. How are you? What do you mean you got lost this morning? A young woman helped you? What did she look like? Jessica watched the phone conversation, seeing Michael's expression gradually change. There was surprise, relief, and something that seemed like shame. Dad, can you describe the young woman who helped you? Long hair, a little black suit and a pink umbrella. When Michael hung up the phone, his hands were trembling slightly. Jessica, I didn't know. My father told me that an angel had appeared to help him this morning. He said it was the most beautiful thing he had seen in a long time, a young woman who sacrificed her own situation to help a stranger. I couldn't leave him alone in the rain, Mr. Michael. Anyone would have done the same. No, Jessica, my father was right. Not just anyone would do that. And I just fired the person who saved my father from a terrible situation. The silence that followed was heavy with regret and irony. Michael got up from his chair and walked to the window, watching the rain that was still falling outside. My father is 80 years old, Jessica. In the last few months, he's had some episodes of confusion. This morning, he left the house without telling anyone and was lost for over 2 hours. When he came home, he was radiant, talking about a wonderful woman who had helped him. He said she was an example of kindness in a world that can sometimes be so cruel. Jessica felt a lump in her throat. Imagining that kind old man lost and confused in the city made her realize how important her decision had been. Is he okay? He is. Thanks to you. And I don't know how to apologize for what I just did. Mr. Michael, I understand your position. The company's image is important. No, Jessica, it's not excusable. I should have asked what happened before making such a drastic decision. My father always told me that we should listen before judging, and I did exactly the opposite. Michael went back behind the desk, but now his posture was different. There was no more of the arrogance from before, just a man confronting his own mistake. Jessica, I want you to stay with the company. In fact, I want to offer you a promotion. Someone with your character deserves to be in a prominent position here. Mr. Michael, you don't have to do this out of guilt. I only did what anyone should do. But not everyone does, Jessica. And it's not guilt. It's recognition. A person who shows so much compassion for a stranger will certainly treat our clients with the same care and dedication. Jessica felt a mix of relief and emotion. Her job was safe, but more than that, there was a feeling that something bigger was happening. Can I ask a question, Mr. Michael? Of course. What is it like taking care of your father? The question seemed to touch something deep in Michael. He sighed heavily before answering. Hard, very hard. After my mother passed away, he has become increasingly fragile, and I feel lost. I don't know how to help him. Your father spoke about your mother a lot today. He clearly misses her very much. They were married for 52 years. She was everything to him. When she left, it was as if a part of him went with her. And how does that affect you? The question caught Michael off guard. He didn't expect an employee to be interested in his personal life, especially after what had happened. I'm not used to talking about this. Sometimes talking helps, especially when it's about someone we love. There was something in Jessica's voice, a genuine concern that broke down the professional barriers Michael maintained. It's frightening to see someone who was always my reference for strength become so vulnerable. My father built this company from scratch. He was the most determined man I knew. And now he needs you. And that doesn't diminish who he was or is at all. You speak as if you know what you're talking about. My mother took care of my grandmother in her final years. I saw how difficult it is, but I also saw how transformative it can be. For both of them, Michael nodded slowly. There was something about that conversation that was affecting him in a way he couldn't explain. Jessica, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. How do you manage to maintain so much compassion even while facing your own difficulties? You're a single mother. You work hard, you have your own worries, and yet you stopped to help a stranger. Jessica thought for a moment before answering. I think I've learned that life gets easier when we look outside ourselves. When we help others, in some way, we help ourselves too. My father said something similar today. He said you reminded him that there's still kindness in the world. Your father is a special man, Mr. Michael. Even confused and lost, he radiated genuine kindness. Talking to him was one of the highlights of my day. Until you got fired because of it. Until I discovered the world is smaller than we think. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. The days that followed brought unexpected changes for everyone involved. Michael had offered Jessica a promotion, but he had also proposed something more, that she take over the coordination of a new company project focused on accessibility and social responsibility. I want you to develop a program where our company gets more involved with the community, explained Michael during a meeting. You've shown a special sensitivity to human issues, and I think that could be a differentiator for us. That's a big responsibility, Mr. Michael. I don't have experience in this area. You have something better than experience. You have heart. And sometimes that's what makes the difference. Jessica accepted the challenge, but inside she felt a mix of excitement and nervousness. It was a unique opportunity for professional growth, but it also meant more pressure and responsibility. At home, her daughter Emily noticed the change in her mother's mood. "Mom, you seem happier today," said the 8-year-old girl while they did homework together. "What do you mean, honey?" "I don't know, you seem different, like something good happened." Jessica smiled. Children had a special perception for these things. "Something did happen, Emily. Mommy met a very special person today." "A boyfriend?" asked the girl with shining eyes. "No, silly. An elderly gentleman who reminded me of important things." "What kind of things?" "That helping other people makes us feel good, and that sometimes bad things that happen can lead to good things." Emily nodded, satisfied with the explanation, and turned her attention back to the math homework. Meanwhile, at George's house, a very different conversation was taking place. "Dad, I need you to tell me exactly what happened this morning," said Michael, sitting next to his father in the living room. "I already told you, son, I got lost and an angel appeared to help me." "Dad, you didn't just get lost by accident. What were you doing downtown?" George hesitated before answering. There was something he hadn't told his son. "Michael, I need to confess something." "What is it, Dad?" "I didn't get lost by accident. I was looking for your mother." Michael felt his heart tighten. "What do you mean, Dad?" "I know it might seem like confusion from old age, but I've been having very vivid dreams about your mother. In them, she tells me she's somewhere downtown waiting for me. I know it's silly, but... Dad, I felt like I needed to look for her, Michael. And the more I walked, the more lost I became. That's when the rain started and I met that wonderful young woman." Michael didn't know what to say. The pain of loss was still very real for his father, and the dreams were clearly a manifestation of unresolved grief. "Dad, Mom isn't downtown. She is no longer with us." "I know that here." George pointed to his head. "But here," he pointed to his heart, "I still feel as if she were around, needing me." "You need professional help, Dad. I can't let you go out alone if this happens again. I don't want to be a prisoner in my own home, Michael. And I don't want to lose you either." Father and son fell silent for a moment, each dealing with their own fears and pains. "The young woman who helped me today said something interesting," George said finally. "What was it?" "She said that we all need help sometimes, and that there's no shame in that." She was right. You need help too, my son. "What do you mean?" "You've been carrying the whole family's weight on your shoulders since your mother passed. You work too much, don't go out, don't have fun. You're sacrificing yourself for my sake." "Dad, taking care of you isn't a sacrifice. But living just to take care of me is... Your mother wouldn't like to see you like this." Michael knew his father was right, but he couldn't imagine another way to live. After losing his mother, work and caring for his father had become his only reality. "I don't know how to be different, Dad. Maybe we can learn together." The following week, Jessica began working on the new project. Her first task was to develop an assessment of the local community's needs and propose concrete actions that the construction company could implement. During her research, she discovered a senior community center that operated precariously in a church near the company. The space was small, poorly ventilated, and served about 40 people with very limited resources. "Mrs. Wilson, how long has the center been operating here?" Jessica asked the coordinator, a 60-year-old woman who dedicated her time voluntarily to the project. "For over 10 years, my dear. It started in my home, with 5 elderly people from the neighborhood who had nowhere to spend the day. It kept growing until the church provided this space." "And what are the main difficulties?" "Oh, honey, there are many. Lack of space, lack of materials for activities, lack of people to help. But what saddens me most is seeing how many seniors arrive here abandoned by their families." "Abandoned?" "Not physically, but emotionally. The children drop them off here in the morning and pick them up at night as if it were a school. There's no family interaction, no affection." Jessica immediately thought of George. From what she had noticed, Michael took good care of his father, but perhaps there was an opportunity to help both. "Mrs. Wilson, would you do home visits?" "You do. To better understand the family's reality. We would love to, but we don't have the resources for that. What if there was a partnership with a company that could provide resources and support?" Mrs. Wilson's eyes lit up. "That would be a dream, my dear. But companies usually only want to help when there's an image return. What if it were different? If it were a company that truly cared about the community's well-being? Then it would be a miracle." Jessica left the community center with a clear idea of what to propose to Michael, but first she wanted to talk to George again. There was something about that man that intrigued her, a wisdom mixed with fragility that touched her deeply. The next day, during lunch hour, she went to George's building. She didn't know if it was appropriate, but she felt she needed to see him again. Jessica, George exclaimed when he saw her at the entrance. What a wonderful surprise, and hello, Mr. George, I came to see how you're doing. Come, let's talk upstairs. George's apartment was spacious and well-maintained, but there was an atmosphere of loneliness that was almost palpable. Photos of his wife scattered in every corner, an environment that seemed frozen in time. How was your week, Mr. George? Better, thank you. I haven't gone out alone for walks anymore. Michael is worried, and I understand. And how do you feel staying home more? Lonely, to be honest. Michael works a lot, and I'm here with my memories and my television. Have you thought about joining a social group? What do you mean? Jessica told me about the center she visited, about the activities they have, about the chance to spend time with people my age. Sounds interesting, but I don't know if Michael would approve. Why not? He's afraid I might get lost again. And to be honest, I'm afraid too. What if you weren't alone? If someone went with you the first few times, would you do that? The question took Jessica by surprise. She had thought about suggesting that Michael accompany his father, but realized that would be more complicated given his work schedule. Of course I would, George. It would be a pleasure. But you have your own life, your work, your daughter. And I also have time to help a friend. The smile that bloomed on George's face was worth more than any promotion or professional recognition. You know something, Jessica. Since my wife passed away, you're the first person who's shown genuine interest in my well-being. I'm sure that's not true. My son takes care of me, that's a fact, but he does it out of obligation, out of filial love. You care by choice, out of kindness. It's different. Jessica felt a lump in her throat. There was something about this man's vulnerability that touched her deeply. George, may I ask you a personal question? Of course, my dear. What was it like losing your wife? George took a deep breath as if preparing to dive into deep waters. It was as if half of me had simply disappeared. 52 years living with someone, and suddenly you wake up and she's no longer there. The silence in the house becomes deafening. And how have you been dealing with it? Poorly, to be honest. I've been talking to her every night before bed. I know it sounds crazy, but it doesn't sound crazy. It sounds like love. Michael thinks I'm losing my mind. Maybe I am. Or maybe you're just trying to find a way to deal with the pain. You understand because you've been through this? Not exactly. But I lost my mother when I was 20, and I remember how hard it was to accept that she was no longer here. How did you get over it? I'm still trying. Some days are better than others, but I found that keeping her memory alive, talking about her, telling her stories to my daughter, helps ease the pain. I wish I could talk about my wife with someone. Michael avoids the subject, I think, because it hurts him too much. What would you like to say about her? George visibly perked up at the question. She had a habit of singing while she cooked, always the same Ella Fitzgerald songs. She woke up early every day and made breakfast that was a work of art. And she had a laugh that was contagious. She sounds like she was a special woman. She was, and you know what makes me the saddest? Michael inherited so many of her qualities, but he refuses to see them. He works so much, he's forgotten how to smile, how to have fun. Maybe he just needs time to process the loss. It's been 5 years, Jessica. I think he's hidden behind his work and forgotten how to live. And you? How would you like to live from now on? I'd like to feel that I still have something to offer the world, that my life still has purpose, even without her by my side. The conversation was interrupted by the sound of a key in the lock. Michael had arrived for lunch. Jessica, what are you doing here? He asked, visibly surprised to see her in his father's living room. I came to visit George. I hope you don't mind. No, of course not. It's just, unexpected. Son, Jessica brought me an interesting proposal, said George. What proposal? Jessica explained about the senior community center, about the idea of George participating in the activities, about her offer to accompany him the first few times. I'm not sure if it's a good idea, Dad. You might get confused, get lost. Michael, I was thinking, maybe this is exactly what your father needs. Social interaction, stimulating activities, a sense of purpose. But what if something happens? I'll be there with him. and gradually he can gain independence. I don't want to be a burden to you, Jessica. Mr. George wouldn't be a burden. He'd be pleasant company. Michael looked back and forth between his father and Jessica, visibly torn between concern and recognition that the proposal made sense. Can I think about it? Of course, Jessica replied. But in the meantime, how about you see the center? You could come with me and your father tomorrow during lunch hour, just to see what it's like. I can't leave work to... Michael, George interrupted, when was the last time you took a lunch break for something other than work? Dad, it's different. I have responsibilities. And am I not one of them? The silence that followed was heavy with tension. There were unresolved issues between father and son that Jessica didn't know about, but could feel. Excuse me, she said, standing up. I think I should go. I didn't mean to cause any discomfort. No, Jessica, said George. You didn't cause discomfort. You just brought up an issue we needed to discuss a long time ago. What issue? Asked Michael. The fact that you've hidden so much behind work that you've forgotten to live your own life. And you've forgotten that I have a life to live too. Dad, everything I do is with you in mind. No, my son. Everything you do is running from the pain of losing your mother, and you're dragging me along in this escape. George's words hit Michael like a punch in the stomach. He sat down heavily in a chair, running his hands over his face. Dad, I don't know how to do things differently. Neither do I, son. But maybe we can learn together, with the help of good people like Jessica. Jessica felt uncomfortable witnessing such an intimate moment between father and son, but at the same time she realized that perhaps her presence was necessary as a catalyst for that conversation. Mr. Michael, may I suggest something? Of course. How about if we start small? You could come see the center with me and your father. Just 15 minutes. If you don't like it, there's no commitment. And if my father feels unwell, if he gets confused, then we'll leave. Simple as that. Michael looked at his father, who was watching him with an expression of hope he hadn't seen in a long time. Okay, but just to see. Thank you, my son, said George with tears in his eyes. No, Dad, thank you. I should be the one saying thank you for having patience with a son who got lost in his own fear. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out. Now continuing. The next day, the visit to the Senior Community Center proved transformative for everyone involved. George was delighted with the activities offered and immediately connected with other seniors who, like him, were seeking companionship and purpose. Mrs. Hope, how long have you been coming here? George asked a white-haired lady who was painting flowers in watercolor. 2 years, Mr. George. After my husband passed, my children thought I should keep busy with something. I resisted at first, but now I can't live without this place. And what do you like most about being here? I like everything, but mostly I like being useful. I help Mrs. Wilson with the activities. I teach crochet to the younger ones. I listen to other people's problems. I feel alive again. Michael watched his father's interaction with the other seniors with a mix of surprise and emotion. It had been a long time since he had seen George so excited and engaged. Jessica, can I talk to you for a minute? Said Michael, stepping slightly away from the group. Of course. I was wrong. Completely wrong. My father doesn't just need care. He needs life. It's natural to want to protect him, Mr. Michael, but sometimes overprotecting can be a way of suffocating. My mother always said that. She said I had a tendency to want to control everything, especially when I was scared. And what are you afraid of now? Of losing him too. He's all I have left of my family. But look at him now. When was the last time you saw your father so happy? Michael looked toward his father, who was laughing at some story Mrs. Hope was telling. A long time. A very long time. Maybe giving him freedom is the best way to care for him. And if something happens, something will happen anyway, Mr. Michael. That's life. But at least your father will have lived, not just existed. You're right, as always. Not always. But in this case, I think so. Mrs. Wilson approached them with an excited expression. Jessica, dear, I need to speak with you. Mr. George gave me a wonderful idea. What idea? He suggested we do an intergenerational project, bring children to interact with our seniors. He said he has a granddaughter who would love to participate. Jessica looked surprised at Michael. You have a daughter? Asked George, who had approached the group. Yes, an 8-year-old girl. Emily. What a wonderful age. You know, I always wanted to have a granddaughter, but Michael insists on staying single. Dad, it's true, my son. Your mother dreamed of being a grandmother, and I dream of teaching someone the stories she told me. Jessica felt her heart tighten. Emily had grown up without grandparents and had always shown curiosity about older people. Mr. George, I think Emily would love to meet you. She's always asking questions about what life was like in the old days. It would be a joy for me. And who knows, maybe I can teach her some of the songs my wife used to sing. She would love that. She has a special interest in music. Then it's decided, said Mrs. Wilson. We'll start an intergenerational program. And what if the construction company officially supported this project? All eyes turned to Michael, who seemed surprised by the proposal. How so? A project where the company not only donates resources, but gets actively involved. Employees could participate as volunteers, bring their children to activities, create a real bridge between generations. It's an interesting idea, but I would need board approval. Mr. Michael, said Jessica, this is exactly the kind of project that can transform the company's image. Real social responsibility with genuine community involvement. And my father would be the project ambassador. If he wants to, it would be perfect. Someone who truly understands the needs of seniors and can help develop meaningful activities. George was radiant at the possibility. Michael, this would give me a purpose, something to do, a way to honor your mother's memory by helping others. Dad, would you really like to be involved in something like this? More than anything in the world, my son. Michael looked around, seeing the enthusiasm on the faces of everyone present. There was an energy, a hope he hadn't felt in a long time. All right, I'll present the proposal to the board tomorrow. The hug George gave his son at that moment deeply touched everyone present. Something was being healed there, a connection being re-established. Jessica, said Michael as they walked back to the company, how can I thank you for all this? No need to thank me. Seeing your father happy is already rewarding. It's not just that. You helped me see things I had been avoiding seeing for years. What kind of things? That taking care of my father doesn't mean keeping him in a glass bubble, that he still has a lot to offer the world, and that maybe I do too. You've always had a lot to offer, Mr. Michael. You just forgot that for a while. And you, Jessica, what do you have to offer besides the natural kindness you show? The question caught Jessica off guard. It had been a long time since anyone had asked her about her own dreams and aspirations. I'm not quite sure. It's been so long that my focus has only been on taking care of Emily and working that I forgot to think about other possibilities. Maybe it's time to start thinking. Maybe so. They walked a few meters in silence, each lost in their own thoughts. Jessica, may I extend an invitation? Of course. I'd like you and Emily to have dinner with us this weekend. I think my father would be thrilled, and I'd like to get to know the person who brought so much light to our family better. Jessica felt her heart race. There was something about the invitation that went beyond professional courtesy. It would be a pleasure, Mr. Michael. I'm sure Emily would love to meet your father. Great. How about Saturday? Perfect. When they arrived at the company, both had the feeling that something fundamental had changed between them. There was a new connection, a mutual understanding that transcended their professional relationship. In the days that followed, Michael worked tirelessly to present the intergenerational project to the board. He prepared a detailed presentation with budgets, schedules, and social impact estimates. Gentlemen, he said during the board meeting, this isn't just a marketing move. It's a real opportunity for us to make a difference in the community where our company is located. Michael, what would be the financial return on this investment? Asked one of the directors. The return isn't direct financially, but in image, reputation, and employee engagement. Besides, it's an investment in the society that has welcomed us for so many years. And who would coordinate this project? Jessica Miller, our new Social Responsibility Coordinator. She already has a deep understanding of the needs of the Senior Community Center and has an established relationship with the community. And what would your personal involvement in the project be? I intend to participate actively. My father will be one of the volunteers, and I believe my direct involvement will demonstrate the company's real commitment. After some discussion, the board approved the project unanimously. Michael left the meeting with a sense of accomplishment he hadn't felt in years. That same day, he sought out Jessica to give her the good news. They approved it. The project was fully approved. Really? That's wonderful. How happy your father will be. And you? How are you feeling? Honestly? Excited and terrified at the same time. It's a huge responsibility. Jessica, you won't be alone in this. I'll be by your side at every step of the project. There was something in the way he said, "by your side," that made Jessica feel a different warmth spread through her chest. Thank you, Mr. Michael. That means a lot to me. You can just call me Michael. I think we're past formalities, don't you? Michael, then. That's better. And Jessica? Yes? I'm looking forward to Saturday's dinner. It's been a long time since I've had a reason to look forward to the weekend. Jessica smiled, feeling the same anticipation. I'm looking forward to it too. And Emily is counting the days to meet your father. She'll love him. My father has a special way with children. He always has. And you, Michael? Do you like children? I do. I always wanted to have kids, but life took other turns. It's never too late to change life's course. Sometimes I feel like it is. As if I had lost so much time that I wouldn't know how to live differently anymore. We all waste time on things we thought were important at the moment. What matters is recognizing that and choosing to live differently from now on. You talk as if you have experience in the matter. I do. I spent years thinking I needed to be too strong, too independent, that accepting help was a sign of weakness, until I realized that sharing life with others makes it richer. What changed your perspective? Ironically, meeting you and your father, seeing how the connection between you, even with all the difficulties, is something precious. It made me question my own way of living. How so? I've kept everyone at a safe distance, Michael. Even having Emily, even having friends, there's a part of me that remains isolated, as if I'm afraid of being disappointed again. Again? Jessica hesitated before answering. There was a vulnerability there that she rarely showed. Emily's father left me when he found out about the pregnancy, and since then I've built walls to protect my heart. And hers too. I'm sorry, Jessica. I didn't know. There's no reason you should know. I don't usually talk about it, but something about this whole situation, about meeting you, made me realize that maybe it's time to tear down some walls. And how do you feel about that? Scared, but also hopeful. Michael felt something stirring in his chest, a desire to protect that brave woman who had entered his life so unexpectedly. Jessica, you have more courage than you think. Raising a daughter alone, keeping your kindness even after being hurt, opening your heart to help strangers, that's a form of strength I wish I had. You do have it, Michael. You just direct it to different places. Maybe it's time for me to tear down some walls too. Maybe so. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, please take a moment to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It really helps us who are just starting out, now continuing. Saturday arrived full of expectations. Jessica had spent the week imagining what the dinner would be like, what impression Emily would make on George and Michael, what it would be like to be in a family environment after so long building her life only around herself and her daughter. "Mum, I'm nervous," said Emily while getting ready. "Why, honey? What if they don't like me? It's impossible not to like you, Emily, you're special. But what if I say something wrong, or if I don't know how to behave?" Jessica knelt in front of her daughter, holding her small hands. "Emily, just be yourself. Mr. George is a very kind person, and Michael is a good person too. They'll love getting to know you. You like him, don't you, Mum? Who? Michael. I noticed how your eyes shine when you talk about him. The child's perception caught Jessica off guard. It's complicated, Emily. Why is it complicated to like someone? Because sometimes people come into our lives and then leave, and that can hurt. But sometimes they come and stay, right? Sometimes, yes. Then it's worth the risk. Jessica smiled, impressed by her daughter's wisdom. When did you get so smart? I learned from my mum, said Emily, giving her a tight hug. They arrived at George's apartment promptly at 7 in the evening. Michael greeted them at the door, visibly nervous. Jessica, I'm so glad you came. And this must be Emily. Hi, said the girl shyly. Emily, it's a pleasure to officially meet you. My dad is looking forward to talking with you. They entered the apartment, which had been carefully prepared to welcome them. There were fresh flowers on the table, soft music playing in the background, and the delicious aroma of a home-cooked dinner. Jessica, exclaimed George, appearing from the kitchen with an apron. And the famous Emily. Come here, my dear, let me look at you. Emily approached the gentleman timidly, and he welcomed her with a radiant smile. You're even prettier than I imagined. And did you know you have the same eyes as your mother? Everyone says that, replied Emily, already more relaxed. And tell me, Emily, your mother said you like music. I do. I play a little guitar and love to sing. What a wonderful coincidence. My wife loved music. How about after dinner I teach you some songs she used to sing? Really, that would be amazing. Jessica watched the interaction between Emily and George with a warm heart. There was a natural connection there, an ease that touched her deeply. Jessica, can I help you with anything? Asked Michael. Actually, I brought a dessert. Where can I put it? Come, I'll show you the kitchen. They moved away to the kitchen, leaving George and Emily chatting animatedly in the living room. How do you feel? Asked Michael. Good. Your father is exactly as I imagined. Emily already adores him. And me? How did you imagine me? The question caught Jessica off guard. Michael was closer than she had realized, and there was something in his eyes that sent a shiver through her. Different from how you are now. How so? At work you're more controlled. Here you seem more relaxed, more human. Maybe it's because here I can just be myself. Not the company director, not my father's caregiver. Just Michael. And who is Michael when he's not playing any role? Honestly, I haven't known for a long time, but today, here with you, I'm starting to remember. And what are you remembering? That I like to cook. That I miss having special people to share moments like this with. That maybe it's not too late to build a family. The last sentence hung in the air between them, loaded with meaning. Michael. Sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's just that being here with you and Emily makes me feel something I haven't felt in a long time. What do you feel? Hope. A desire to wake up tomorrow knowing there are special people in my life. A desire to build new memories instead of just living off the old ones. Jessica felt her heart race. It had been a long time since she had heard such sincere words from a man. I feel the same, Michael, and it scares me a lot. Why does it scare you? Because when you're used to living only for your daughter, the idea of including someone else in the equation seems too risky. And if it weren't risky, what if it were just natural? How can I know? Maybe by giving it a chance to find out. The sound of Emily's laughter coming from the living room brought them back to reality. They looked at each other for a moment, both aware that something important had been said. We'd better get back to them, said Jessica. Of course, but Jessica. Yes. Let's not pretend this conversation didn't happen. We won't. They returned to the living room, where they found George showing photo albums to Emily. Look, Mom, Mr. George is showing me pictures of his wife. She was very beautiful. She really was, confirmed Jessica, sitting next to them on the couch. This one was taken at our wedding, said George, pointing to a black and white photo. Margaret was radiant. She said it was the happiest day of her life. You loved each other very much, huh? Asked Emily with the typical straightforwardness of children. More than we could ever express in words, my dear. And you know what else? She taught me that true love doesn't diminish when the person is no longer here. It transforms, but it continues to exist. How so? Today I love her through the people I help, the stories I tell, the kindness I try to spread in the world. It's as if she continues to live through my acts of love." Jessica felt tears burning in her eyes. There was a profound beauty in how George viewed loss and love. "Mr. George, would you like to meet Emily?" the girl asked, surprising everyone. "What do you mean, dear?" "I don't know. Sometimes I feel like the people we love who are no longer here are still around in some way. Maybe she'd like to know that you have new friends." George was visibly moved by the child's words. "You know, Emily, I think she already knows. And I think she's very happy to see that her old husband can still make special new friends. Then I'll sing a song for her too, after dinner. She would love that." Michael watched the scene with a mixture of emotion and admiration. Seeing his father interacting with Emily, seeing Jessica fitting so naturally into the family environment, made him realize how limited and lonely his life had become. "How about we have dinner?" he suggested. The table had been set with special care. George had prepared one of his wife's favorite dishes, a pot roast with vegetables that filled the house with a comforting aroma. "It's delicious, Mr. George," said Jessica after the first bite. "Margaret taught me this recipe in our early years of marriage. She said food made with love always has a special flavor." "That's true," Emily agreed. "Mum's food always has a special flavor too." "And what's Jessica's favorite dish?" asked Michael. "Pot roast," Emily replied excitedly. "She makes the best pot roast in the world." "Emily exaggerates," said Jessica, laughing. "I'm not exaggerating, it really is the best. One day you can make it for your Michael to try, right, Mum?" The silence that followed Emily's innocent suggestion was loaded with meaning. There was a childlike naturalness that pointed to possibilities the adults were still hesitant to verbalize. "It would be an honor to try it," said Michael, breaking the silence. "And Mr. George can come too. We can have a Sunday lunch," Emily continued, unaware of the tension she had created. "Emily?" "What, Mom?" "It would be fun." George laughed at the situation. "Emily, you have a very direct way of organizing adults' lives. It's just that sometimes adults complicate things that are simple." "And what's simple, in your opinion?" asked Michael. "When people like each other, they should spend time together. It's obvious. From a child's perspective, it really is obvious." George agreed. "And from an adult's perspective?" asked Jessica. "More complicated, but maybe we should learn from children," Michael replied. The rest of the dinner proceeded in a more relaxed atmosphere. George told stories from his youth, Michael shared some memories of his mother, and Emily charmed them with her spontaneity and intelligence. After dinner, as promised, George sat at the piano in the living room, an instrument that hadn't been played in years, and taught Emily some of Margaret's favorite songs. "Was this your wife's favorite?" asked Emily, after learning Stormy Weather. "One of them. She said the song was about a love that remains alive even when it ends." "It's beautiful, and sad too." "The best songs are like that, dear. Beautiful and sad at the same time." Jessica and Michael watched the scene from the couch, sitting side by side. There was something magical about that moment, a feeling of completeness that neither of them had experienced in a long time. "Thank you," Michael said quietly. "For what?" "For bringing Emily to meet my father. I haven't seen him this happy in years." "Thank you for having us. Emily needed this too, a father figure and grandfather in her life." "And you? What do you need?" Jessica looked at him, seeing in his eyes a sincerity that touched her deeply. "Honestly, I need to stop being afraid of being happy." "Is that what you feel? Afraid of being happy?" "I feel like every time things start going right, something happens to ruin everything. So I prefer to keep expectations low. And now? How are you feeling now?" "Like I'm on the edge of a cliff, and I don't know whether to step forward or retreat to safety." "What if it wasn't a cliff? What if it was just the beginning of a new road? How can I tell the difference?" "Maybe you only know when you start walking." George and Emily's music created the perfect soundtrack for that conversation. There was a growing intimacy between them, a connection that transcended the circumstances that had brought them together. "Michael, can I ask you a personal question?" "Of course." "Why did you never marry?" "Fear," mostly. After my mother died, I realized how fragile love can be, how we can lose the people we love most, and I didn't want to expose myself to that kind of pain again. And now? Now I'm realizing that a life without love might be more painful than a life with the risk of losing those we love. That's a brave realization. You inspired me to be braver, Jessica. Since that first day when you sacrificed your own situation to help my father, I've been questioning many of the choices I've made. What kind of choices? The choice to live only for work, the choice to keep people at a distance, the choice to build a safe but empty life. And what would you choose differently? I'd choose to share my life with special people. I'd choose to build new memories instead of just preserving old ones. I'd choose the risk of loving over the safety of loneliness. Those are beautiful choices, Michael. And you? What would you choose differently? I'd choose to trust more. I'd choose to let other people help me. I'd choose to believe I deserve to be loved not just as a mother, but as a woman. You do deserve it, Jessica. More than you know. The physical distance between them had gradually decreased during the conversation. Now they were so close that Jessica could feel the warmth radiating from Michael's body. Michael. Yes? I'm scared. Of what? Of feeling things I swore I'd never feel again. And what are you feeling? That maybe it's worth taking the risk. Jessica, may I? The question was interrupted by the sound of applause coming from the piano. George and Emily had finished the song and were beaming with their performance. Mum, did you hear? I learned the whole song. Yes, I heard, sweetheart. It was beautiful. Mr. George is an amazing teacher. Emily is the special student, said George, visibly moved. Margaret would have been delighted with you, my dear. I wish I had known her. In a way, you met her today. Through the song she loved, through the stories I told. When we truly love someone, that person stays alive in our memories and in everything they taught us. That's beautiful, Mr. George. And true, Emily. Always remember that. The evening was coming to an end, and there was a bittersweet feeling in the air. No one wanted this special moment to end. I think we need to go, said Jessica, checking the time. Emily has school early tomorrow. Already, the girl protested. It was so much fun. We can do this again soon, dear, said George. Now that we're friends, we can see each other more often. Promise? I promise. During the goodbyes, George hugged Emily with special affection. Thank you for bringing so much joy to this house, my dear. It's been a long time since these walls heard a child's laughter. Thank you for teaching me Margaret's songs. I'll practice them at home. And I'll be waiting to hear how you're progressing. When it was Jessica's turn to say goodbye to George, the elderly man held her hands emotionally. Jessica, you and Emily brought new life to our family. I don't know how to thank you. We're the ones who should thank you, Mr. George. Emily needed grandfatherly affection, and I needed to remember that there are still good people in the world. There always will be, my dear. Sometimes we just need to be open to finding them. Michael walked Jessica and Emily to the car. The night was starry, and there was a magic in the air that neither of them wanted to break. Thank you for a perfect evening, he said. Thank you. Emily looks radiant. And you? How are you feeling? Confused, happy, hopeful, scared. All at the same time. I understand, I feel the same. Michael, about our conversation earlier, you don't need to say anything now, Jessica. Just don't dismiss the possibility of giving what's growing between us a chance. I won't dismiss it, I promise. That's all I can ask for. He leaned in and gently kissed her forehead, a tender gesture that made her feel both protected and desired. Good night, Jessica. Good night, Michael. On the way home, Emily was visibly tired but happy. Mum, I really liked them. Me too, sweetie. I think your George was right. When he said his wife would be happy, I felt like she was there with us, smiling. What made you feel that? I can't explain it, but the house had a feeling of love, you know, like there was still a lot of love in the walls. That's a beautiful insight, Emily. And Michael likes you? Emily. It's obvious, Mum. The way he looks at you is the same way your George looked at pictures of Margaret. You're imagining things. I'm not, and you like him too. It's complicated, sweetie. Why does it always have to be complicated? If you like each other, why don't you get together? Because sometimes things aren't as simple as they seem, but sometimes they're simpler than adults make them out to be. Jessica smiled, once again impressed by her daughter's wisdom. Maybe you're right. I am. And Mom? Yes? I deserve to have a cool stepdad, and you deserve to be happy. Emily's words echoed in Jessica's mind throughout the following week. There was a simple truth in the child's perspective that made her question all the barriers she had built around her heart. On Monday, when she arrived at work, she found flowers on her desk with a simple note. "Thank you for an unforgettable evening, Michael." The gesture touched her deeply, but it also intensified her inner confusion. It was clear that something real was growing between them, but the responsibility of protecting Emily from possible disappointment weighed heavily on her thoughts. During the week, they worked together on the intergenerational project, and each day, the connection between them deepened. There were moments of complicity, looks that lasted longer than professionally necessary, conversations that went beyond work matters. "How did Emily react to the dinner?" Michael asked one afternoon when they were working alone organizing the project details. "She hasn't stopped talking about you all week. I think your father has won a lifelong admirer." "And me? Did I win anything?" The direct question caught her off guard. They were working very close together, reviewing documents at her desk, and Jessica could feel the intensity of his gaze. "Michael, sorry. I didn't mean to embarrass you. It's just that working so closely with you has been challenging." "Challenging how?" "Hard to focus only on work, when all I want is to get to know you better. Discover your dreams, your fears, your hopes." "Why is that important to you?" "Because I believe you might be the person I was waiting for, without knowing I was waiting." "That's very intense, Michael. You're right. Sorry if I'm being hasty. It's just that I haven't felt this way about anyone in a long time." "How do you feel?" "Like I've woken up from a very long sleep. Like life has gained colors I had forgotten existed." Jessica felt her heart race. There was an honesty in his words that touched her deeply. "I feel that way too, and that scares me a lot." "Why does it scare you?" "Because I have a lot to lose if this goes wrong. It's not just my heart at stake, it's Emily's too." "And what if it doesn't go wrong? How can I be sure? Maybe you can't. Maybe it's a matter of faith." "Faith in what?" "In us. In what's growing between us. In the possibility of building something beautiful together." "Michael, I need time." "How much time do you need?" "I don't know. Just time to process all of this." "I can wait, Jessica. I can wait as long as necessary. And if in the end I decide it's too risky, then I'll respect your decision. But I hope you don't decide based on fear, but on what your heart truly wants." "How can I tell the difference?" "I imagine when you picture a future without me, if that brings relief or sadness, the answer will be there." The conversation was interrupted by the arrival of other colleagues, but Michael's words kept echoing in Jessica's mind for the rest of the day. That night at home, she found herself imagining what a future with Michael would be like. She imagined family dinners. She imagined Emily having a present father figure. She imagined sharing life's responsibilities and joys with someone. And she realized that instead of relief, the idea of a future without him brought her a deep sadness. On Friday of that week, George made his first official visit to the Senior Community Center as a regular participant. Jessica had offered to accompany him, and the experience was revealing for both of them. "How do you feel being here again?" she asked as they watched a group of seniors playing dominoes. "Like I'm coming back to life, Jessica. For months I haven't felt useful, needed." "And now you do?" "Mrs. Wilson asked me to coordinate a storytelling group. She said my experience and memory would be valuable for preserving old stories of the city." "How wonderful." "It's more than wonderful, it's a purpose. Something that honors Margaret's memory and at the same time gives me a reason to wake up every day." "Your son must be proud." "Michael has been different this week. more present, more interested. He even helped me choose clothes to come today. That's good to hear. Jessica, can I say something personal? Of course. My son is in love with you. The direct statement caught her completely off guard. Mr. George, it's not a question, my dear. It's an observation. I've known my son for 45 years, and I've never seen him look at anyone the way he looks at you. It's complicated. Why does it have to be complicated? Do you like him? I do, very much, but I'm afraid. What are you afraid of? Of getting hurt again, of Emily getting hurt, of building expectations and then having to start all over. Jessica, can I tell you a secret? Of course. When I met Margaret, I was terrified too. I was 25 and had never felt something so intense for anyone. I almost let her slip away because of fear. What changed? I realized that the fear of being hurt was smaller than the fear of missing the chance to be completely happy. And if it had gone wrong, then it would have gone wrong, but at least I would have tried. And Jessica, there are worse things in life than trying and failing. Like what? Like never trying and spending the rest of your life wondering what if. George's words touched something deep in Jessica. There was a wisdom that came from experience, from the perspective of someone who had lived a great love and knew its value. Mr. George, can I ask a question? Of course. How did you know Margaret was the right person? When I realized she made me want to be a better version of myself, and when I found that I felt more myself with her than alone. And Michael? Does he make you feel that way? Jessica thought for a moment before answering. He does. When I'm with him, I feel like I'm reconnecting with parts of myself I'd forgotten existed. So what's really the problem? The problem is that when you're a single mother, you can't just think about yourself. You need to consider what's best for your daughter too. And you think having a complete family, with a stepfather who clearly adores Emily, would be bad for her. It wouldn't be bad. It would be wonderful. But what if it doesn't work out? Jessica, my dear, you're preparing for a failure that might never happen, and in the process you might be missing the opportunity for real happiness. It's hard not to think that way when you've been abandoned before. I understand. But Michael isn't Emily's father. Michael is a man I've seen completely change since you came into his life. A man who's willing to build something new, not just for himself, but for both of you. How can you be so sure? Because the other night he told me something I'll never forget. What was it? He said that for the first time in his adult life, when he imagined his future, he no longer saw himself alone. He saw you and Emily as integral parts of his dreams. Jessica felt tears burning her eyes. There was something in the sincerity of those words, reported by a father who knew his son deeply, that touched her heart in a way she couldn't ignore. George, I'm so scared. I know, my dear. But sometimes the bravest thing we can do is allow ourselves to be loved. What if I don't know how to do that? Then we learn together. Love is something you learn by practicing, not by studying. In that moment, Jessica made a decision that would change the course of her life. George, can I ask a favor? Anything. Can you tell Michael I'd like to talk to him? Tonight, after Emily falls asleep. Of course. And Jessica? Yes? I'm very proud of your courage. I haven't done anything courageous yet. Deciding to open your heart is always the bravest act of all. That night, after putting Emily to bed, Jessica nervously waited for Michael's arrival. She had mentally rehearsed what she wanted to say, but knew that when the moment came, the words would need to come from the heart. When the doorbell rang, she took a deep breath before opening the door. "Hi," he said, visibly nervous too. "Hi, please come in." They sat in the living room, and for a moment neither knew how to begin. "Jessica, my dad said you wanted to talk to me." "I did, about us." "And what have you decided?" "I've decided that I'm very scared, but that my fear of losing you is greater than my fear of being hurt." Michael felt his heart race. "What does that mean?" "It means I'd like to try, for real, not just flirting with the possibility, but actually building something together." "Jessica, are you sure?" "I'm not sure about anything, Michael. But I'm sure that when I imagine my future without you, I feel an emptiness I don't want to carry. And Emily, how do you feel about including her in this equation? Emily has already included you and your father in her life. In fact, I think she knew this would happen before we did. Michael rose from the couch and knelt in front of Jessica, holding her hands. Jessica, I want you to know I'm not just offering a relationship. I'm offering a family. For you and for Emily. Michael, I want to be the man who's there when Emily needs help with homework. I want to be the one who teaches her to ride a bike, who takes her to the movies, who protects and loves her as if she were my own daughter. And with me? What do you want with me? I want to wake up every day by your side. I want to share life's joys and difficulties with you. I want to grow old with you, build memories with you, love you with everything I have. That sounds almost too good to be true. Then let's make it true, Jessica, together. How do we do that? One day at a time. One decision at a time. Choosing every day to be present in each other's lives. And your father? How does he fit into all this? My father would love to have a daughter-in-law and a granddaughter. In fact, I think he already considers them as such. Michael, can I ask you a question? Anything. Do you love me? The direct question caught him off guard, but he didn't hesitate in his answer. I do, Jessica. I love you and I love Emily. I love the brave woman you are. I love the dedicated mother you are. I love the kind person you are. I love you too, Michael. And that scares me and moves me at the same time. So are we decided? We're decided. He leaned in and kissed her gently, a kiss that sealed not just the start of a relationship, but the beginning of a new family. Jessica? Yes? Can I stay here tonight? Just to be near you? You can. But on the couch. Emily isn't ready for certain changes yet. The couch is perfect. Anywhere near you is perfect. They spent the night talking about dreams, plans, expectations. There was so much to discover about each other, so many stories to share, so many details of everyday life to learn. When Emily woke up the next morning and found Michael having coffee with Jessica in the kitchen, her reaction was pure joy. I knew it. I knew you'd end up together. How did you know? Asked Jessica, laughing. Because when two people like each other the way you do, they always end up together. It's obvious. And what do you think about that? Asked Michael. I think it's amazing. Now I'll have a father and a grandfather. Emily, things will change slowly. We'll get to know each other better first, okay? Mom, I already know him. He's a good person. And it makes me happy to see you happy. The child's simplicity and sincerity deeply touched both adults. Thank you, Emily, said Michael. I promise I'll do everything to take good care of your mom and you. I know you will. And if you need help, you can ask your dad. He's very wise. He is, agreed Michael. My dad will be your honorary grandfather if you want. I do. I've always wanted a grandfather who could play piano and tell stories. In the months that followed, the new family gradually adjusted to the new dynamic. Michael started spending more time at Jessica's house, helping with Emily, sharing responsibilities, creating family routines. George flourished at the senior community center, becoming one of the most beloved and respected figures there. His storytelling group attracted not only the other seniors, but also children from the community who came to hear his tales about old Denver. The intergenerational project of Horizon Builders became a model for other companies, generating regional and national recognition. But more important than the professional success was the personal impact it had on all the lives involved. Jessica, can I talk to you? Said Michael one night, after they put Emily to bed. Of course, what is it? I want to ask you an important question. I'm listening. Michael knelt in front of her, pulling a small box from his pocket. Jessica Miller, will you marry me? Jessica felt her heart stop for a second. They had only been together for a few months, but there was something about the proposal that felt natural, as if it were the next logical step of a journey that began on that rainy day. Michael, I know it might seem rushed, but I can't imagine my life without you and Emily. I want to make official what has already become reality in my heart. And Emily, what does she think about this? Actually, she's the one who suggested I propose to you. What do you mean? Yesterday, she asked me when I was going to ask you to be my real wife. She said she was tired of explaining to her friends that I was her almost stepfather. Jessica laughed through the tears that began to well up. And what did you say? I said I was waiting for the right moment. And she said the right moment is always now when you're sure of what you want. And are you sure? Absolutely. Jessica, you and Emily are the family I've always dreamed of having. Will you be my family officially? Yes, Michael, we will. The kiss that followed was interrupted by the sound of clapping coming from the hallway. Emily had woken up and witnessed the whole scene. Finally, she exclaimed, running to hug them. Now we're a real family. We've always been a real family, sweetheart, said Jessica. Now we're just making it official. And will Mr. George be my official grandpa too? Absolutely official, confirmed Michael. Best day of my life. The wedding took place 6 months later, in a simple but moving ceremony. George was Michael's best man, Emily was Jessica's maid of honor, and Mrs. Wilson from the Senior Community Center was the special officiant who celebrated the union of two families becoming one. During the reception, held in the hall of the community center itself, George gave a speech that touched everyone present. When my wife Margaret passed away, I thought my ability to see miracles had gone with her. But today I'm here, seeing my son happy, gaining a wonderful daughter-in-law and a special granddaughter, and I realize miracles never stop happening. We just sometimes need to be open to recognizing them. Mr. George, said Jessica during her response, you're the one who taught me that kindness is always rewarded, that helping others is actually helping ourselves, and that love can grow even in the most unexpected moments. And I learned, said Michael, that sometimes we need to get lost to find our true path. If my father hadn't gotten lost that rainy morning, we might never have met Jessica, and our life would be much emptier. I learned, said Emily, surprising everyone by asking to speak, that families aren't just made of blood. They're made of love, care, and choice, and I choose you as my family forever. There wasn't a dry eye in the hall after the child's words. The wedding night was special, not just for the newlyweds, but for the entire new family. They decided to spend their honeymoon at home, creating memories and establishing family traditions. Jessica, said Michael, while they lay in bed, listening to the soft sound of Emily's breathing in the next room, can I ask you a question? Of course. Do you regret anything? Taking so long to say yes. Anything else? Being afraid for so long. Afraid of being happy, afraid to trust, afraid to love. And now? Are you still afraid? I am, but now it's a different fear. How so? Now I'm afraid of not being a good wife, a good mother to our expanded family. I'm afraid of not being worthy of all this love I receive. Jessica, you saved my family. You brought my father back to life, taught me to love again, gave Emily the family she deserved. How can you think you're not worthy? Sometimes it still feels like a dream, like I'll wake up and find none of this is real. It's real, my love. We're real, and we'll be here tomorrow and the day after, and for all the days to come. Promise? I promise. 2 years later, the family had settled into a happy and loving routine. Michael officially adopted Emily, who at 10 years old had become a confident and cheerful girl. George, at 82, remained active at the Senior Community Center and was considered a grandfather by the entire community. Jessica had been promoted to Director of Social Responsibility at Horizon Builders, and her projects served as models for other companies across the country. But her greatest pride wasn't professional. It was the family they had built together. "Mom, can I ask you a question?" said Emily on a Sunday afternoon, while they were making cookies in the kitchen. "Of course, sweetheart. Do you still think about my real father sometimes?" The question caught Jessica off guard. They rarely talked about Emily's biological father. "Sometimes." "Why do you ask?" "Because the other day a friend said I should want to meet him, and I've been thinking, should I?" Jessica stopped mixing the dough and looked attentively at her daughter. "What do you feel when you think about him?" "Curiosity sometimes, but not longing, not like the children who lost their father feel." "Why do you think it's different?" because you've always given me so much love that I never felt like something was missing. And now, with Dad Michael and Grandpa George, I feel complete. And if one day you want to look for him, then we'll talk. But right now I don't want to. I have the family I need. Emily, you are a very wise girl. I learned from my mother. At that moment, Michael came home from work and found the two in the kitchen. What a delicious smell. What are you making? Cookies for Grandpa, Emily replied. He said he missed the cookies Grandma Margaret used to make. And you're trying to replace her. I'm not trying to replace anyone, Dad. I'm trying to create new memories of love. Michael was visibly moved by his daughter's answer. You're amazing, Emily. Genetic inheritance from Mom and upbringing from the family, she replied, making everyone laugh. Speaking of Grandpa, said Jessica, how is he? Good. Really good, actually. Today he told me something interesting. What was it? He said that after you came into our lives, he stopped dreaming about my mother asking for help. Now he dreams of her thanking us for having found a new way to be happy. How beautiful. And he said one more thing. He said he believes it was my mother who guided you to him that rainy morning. Do you believe that? I don't know if I believe it literally, but I like to think that somehow she played a part in bringing us together. I like to think that too, said Jessica. And I think she would be very proud of the family we've become, added Emily. That evening, after the family dinner with George, while Emily was showing her grandfather the cookies she had made, Jessica and Michael were talking on the porch. Michael, can I tell you a secret? Of course. Sometimes I still can't believe all this is mine, this family, this happiness, this feeling of belonging. Why is it hard to believe? Because for so long my life was just about surviving, working, taking care of Emily, paying the bills, repeating. I never imagined it could be about thriving, being happy, having a complete family. And now? Now I wake up every day grateful, grateful for that rainy morning, grateful for stopping to help your father, grateful for you having the humility to acknowledge your mistake. Have you ever thought about what our life would be like if you had just walked past my father that day? Yes, and it gives me chills just thinking about it. Why? Because you would have continued alone and sad. Emily would have grown up without a father figure, and I would have kept living a half-life, not knowing that it was possible to be completely happy. Do you believe in fate? I don't know, but I believe in choices. And I believe that when we make choices based on love and kindness, the universe conspires to create beautiful things. Like us. Like us. They stayed for a few moments in comfortable silence, listening to Emily and George's laughter coming from the living room. Jessica, can I ask you a question? Always. Are you happy? Truly happy? Happier than I ever thought possible. And you? For the first time in my life, I understand what complete happiness means. It's not just good moments, it's a constant feeling of being in the right place, with the right people. That's exactly it. And you know what else? What? I have a feeling that our story is just beginning, that we have decades of happiness ahead of us. I hope so. I know so. 2 years after that conversation, the couple's first child was born, Noah Miller Thompson. George, then 84 years old, was beaming with the arrival of his grandson. Emily, now 12, had become a devoted and loving older sister. Grandpa, tell the story of how Mom and Dad met, Emily would ask, as George rocked Noah. Again? You already know this story by heart. But Noah doesn't know it yet, and it's the most beautiful story in the world. All right. Once upon a very rainy morning in Denver, and George would tell once more the story of how a single mother stopped in the rain to help a lost elderly man, unaware that this act of kindness would forever change the lives of 2 families. And did they live happily ever after? Emily would ask at the end, even though she knew the answer. They are living happily ever after, George would correct, because true happiness isn't something that only happens at the end of the story. It's something we build every day, through our choices, our love, our kindness. And when Noah grows up, will he also spread kindness in the world? I'm sure he will, because he's being raised in a family that understands helping others is the most beautiful way to live. Grandpa. Yes, dear. Would Grandma Margaret be proud of our family? Very proud, Emily. Very proud. And as the family gathered in the living room, with Noah sleeping in his grandfather's arms, Emily sharing stories from school, Jessica and Michael planning the future, there was a sense of fulfillment in the air that few families ever achieve. It was living proof that kindness is always rewarded, that love can blossom in the most unexpected places, and that sometimes a simple act of compassion is enough to completely change the course of many lives. End of story. So, dear listeners, what did you think of this touching story? How did you feel following the journey of Jessica, Michael, and this entire family? Leave your honest impressions in the comments and tell me, do you believe small acts of kindness can truly transform lives as happened in this story? Don't forget to leave your like if you were moved by the narrative, and most importantly, subscribe to the channel so you don't miss other touching stories like this one. Thank you so much for your company.